You're just saying you almost died with Laird.
Laird Hamilton convinced me I could get towed into a wave despite the fact that I had never surfed in my life. He ended up towing me into not a very big, like a 15 to 18 foot wave in
Hawaiian.
in Kauai,
Yeah.
and I got caught under back-to-back waves and could not get out. And then got lost, and then got to the edge, had 2 life jackets on, could not find, had no idea, full washing machine style. And this is after I had ridden a few waves. First time I'd ever surfed in my life was getting towed into like a 15-foot wave. And
What?
Yeah, and then, man, I had to give up. I finally couldn't surf, and I had nothing left. I was fighting. I had nothing. As soon as I gave up, man, I just popped to the surface, and he came flying in on the jet ski and was like, "We are done." Like, he thought I died. For sure, he thought I died.
shit.
Yeah, I was down for so long, and he was so spooked, like really, because when you're someone like Laird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You look at someone like me, like I did stunts, car stunts, and professional skateboarder. It's like, of course you could get towed into a wave. It's easy for you,
Right.
they have that mentality that you're just like them, even though I'm not. But yeah, that was my first and only surfing experience.
Jesus. So so it was a multiple set wave. So it just kept banging you on the head.
Yeah, just could never get out of the wash and just couldn't figure out where I was, and man, it's a bizarre thing to be pushed to the edge of needing to get to the point of giving up, especially when you have deep will and like you're fighting, and now it's like the stakes become so extraordinary and you become incredibly clear. I can still almost see the whiteness of the wash, like in knowing, like trying to look for any point towards survival to ultimately pop up just in the last second. But I also look at it as a spiritual sort of awakening.
Yeah.
It was almost like the beginning of this transition of my life into like the person I would eventually become.
And what year was that then?
That was like 2011.
Right.
Yeah, so it was over 10 years ago.
Yeah, we were full on in the genesis of the pool workout at that point.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
we were.
Man, I want to say I came and did the pool workout probably a few years later. And yeah, I just got ran through it, getting that ice bath. You're fine.
Put your
Look
head
at
down.
me.
Put
Look
your
at
head
me. Yeah,
down.
you're fine. You're
Breathe.
fine.
Breathe.
You know what I mean?
Calm down.
Just man talking me. But we shot an episode of Fantasy Factory. On that episode was about testing your man level, and it was basically if Laird was peak man level, and another professional skateboarder friend of mine, Danny Ways, another super hardcore gnarly stuntman. We all did the episode together. And Laird had axe throwing on his property in Kauai, and I was just like an expert axe thrower. You know what I mean? And I couldn't climb the tree to get the coconuts. I couldn't do all these things, but I was like, if they attack our island, I will protect us with my axe.
Right. I am the accurate thrower.
That's it.
Bang. It goes pretty primal pretty quick, especially number one, getting held down on a wave.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like the Mother Nature power is just
Man, that
formidable.
And it is when you think it could be the end, even though you're fighting so hard, but I gave up.
Yeah.
That's the trippy part.
Yeah.
It's like it was nothing left, and then I just popped up, and thank God I had 2 life jackets on.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Inflatables.
Yeah, 2 of them.
Jesus. Well, dude, thank you. Cheers. Here's some structured water for us.
Cheers. Appreciate it.
Great to have you here, man, and thank you for coming under the oak tree.
Yeah,
it's my new name of the podcast. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Under the oak tree.
Yeah. If you could get people out here, I saw that you got a couple people out here. You know what I mean? But it's it's quite a journey.
Yeah.
Even if you live in LA.
Yeah. Eventually, I want to get that studio built, but this is pretty great. To get outside, because more times than not, you have people saying, "Oh my God, it's so good to be outside."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's my mental health. I gotta be out in a place like this.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, as I was driving up here, I was contemplating your life a little bit. And I was like contemplating the idea of how important being outside and being in nature is to you, right? And I just started thinking about, like, man, it's almost like everybody lives in these cadences and their own sort of rhythms and needs. And somebody like me who lives, like, who needs to, go through his cadence each morning and get up early and get on his computer and check things and do his meditation, and write his email to his wife and brain train and get in the gym. My flow, right, doesn't, like, I don't think to myself, man, I'm missing nature, right? Because it's almost like my systems have, like, gotten familiar and comfortable with living inside and growing inside my environment, where if I was to grow up here all day, I might slow down a little bit. Right. The same way if you lived at my house, you'd go crazy.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's also interesting how the human can adapt, right? And just find your space and place. And I mean, I think the most important thing, and by the way, I've been wanting to meet you for a long time, because I can't remember her name, and she's going to freak out, but the Australian trainer.
Alex Laws.
Yes.
Yeah.
Alex. So she was the first. So I met her, and we just got into this. I didn't even know who she was and all this. We got into this whole thing, and I was learning from some mentors of mine, some deep rabbit holes on health and quantum frequencies and all of this stuff. And she was just like, wink. And then we had this relationship, and then she told me she helps you out back in the day. And then I was like, because I skateboard a little bit, but I'm from Minnesota, so you don't get a lot of time because you're getting winter. So I didn't really know about you from that perspective. And then I started seeing who you were, what you were doing, and then this interesting thing that I perceived. Like, you were living your life and creating and having fun, right? And the shows and everything else. But then you have a couple other sides to you that makes it very interesting to me. And that is this entrepreneurial acumen of the willingness to live large and not be afraid of money and success and everything else. However, I always sensed this deep, connected spiritual part about you, and it just was like, who the fuck is this guy? right because for me, I try to strive in those avenues and stay in balance, because I too have my own morning routines and meditations and brain taps and like all of this stuff. And at the same time, you see a disconnect in some of those communities of having true abundance and living full and large, and you know what I'm saying? So I really, number one, I'm just stoked to have you here, and number two, I just really appreciate the level to which you're living.
Yeah.
And I really do get that sense that you strive to be in balance, and it's kind of less about the stuff.
Yep.
And the stuff has kind of been a part of your life because it's a side effect, it's collateral.
Yeah.
So I guess talk to me about that. Like,
yeah, I mean, look, I never shied away from the things that actually made me up and my ambitions and my desires. The problem was, when I was younger, I thought that they would become the answer to peace and happiness. Right? And so in my younger days, and professional skateboarder turning into television and all these different things, and always being an entrepreneur and creating all that stuff, it wasn't till I kind of came to a point when I got a little bit older where it was like, you're not going to keep creating and having and building this amazing life, and there's going to be, and eventually you'll find peace.
Yeah.
And I think that's when I really sought to build harmony in all aspects of my life. And part of that was, really deciding, what type of life did I want specifically. When I thought about, like, how much money I had and what did I want to do with that money, that made me excited, and that's how I sort of connect my identity to it. Like, what are those things? Like, what do I love about business, and what would be the ideal business that I would run, right? And it's like, well, I'm a creator, so I want to, and I love building businesses, but I want to go on to the next thing, so I've got to build a business that builds businesses that have the ability to go on and operate without me, that I still get the, as I say, I'm fueled by the joy of creation, so I still get to continually feed that creation, but do it in a way that it doesn't steal time from me. Because at the end of the day, the first thing I did was designed where I wanted to spend time first, and that's with my family, my wife, my health, all these things. How much time did I want to work? Like, so as I really began to design all of that together, God, I got excited. I'm like, man, if I could live a life like that, that would be the ideal life. It's because I read a business book called Start at the End, and it was like, if you're going to build a business, start at the end, decide what you want from it. Like, do you want it to be $5 million and $1 million and profitable? Do you want to build it and sell it for $50 million and own half? Decide what you want out of it, and then build the plan backwards to get it. And I really did that with my life. But the magical thing that happened was I started from a place of balance and harmony, and then I grew into life. I expanded into life and got better and better at living a harmonious, high-quality life, right? And then when you get to this level, now you've grown to a place where you're in a perpetual state of evolution towards your limitless potential. Yeah. So you can just keep getting better and better and better because you've grown into your potential in a harmonious, balanced way. That was the big shift for me, call it, 5-6 years ago, that really changed and drove me to this more elevated state.
Do you think that you were always striving for balance, or were you just kind of crushing yourself through creating so much? Because God damn, like when people meet me, they go, holy shit, how are you doing? Because 90% of what people know about me is not in the public of what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
Right, but I look at you and it's like, oh shit, like, whoa, you've like crushed me in your accomplishments. So I'm interested into like, because your ability to create 250 shows a year of ridiculousness, and like it's like, it took us 3.5 months to create 8. Like,
bro,
it's
listen to me. I'm about to transition to shooting 336 a year. And I'm going to do 8 in a day, and that 8 is going to take me under 5 hours, right? Like, that's how optimized. But when you look at the scale, right, the scale of managing my, essentially a family office and my real estate portfolios, it's all of my ventures that I co-fund, create, and finance, the 252 episodes of television, 52 podcasts a year, interviews like this, like, all of that is still with about 22% of my time, right? I used to work about 30% of my time, and over the last 2 years, I've worked less and less despite doing more and more. Because
you literally know it's 22%.
Yeah, so I track every single hour of every single day and tag it, and then it goes into a dashboard to show me exactly where I spend my time.
So how do you tag? How does that?
So I had a programmer write me a script, and essentially like that goes into my Google Calendar, and so throughout the I have my plan stuff, right? Because I get better and better at sort of planning my rhythm of my existence, sort of the core things like get up at 4:30, take my kids to school, the trainer comes, I meditate, I brain train, I have sort of these things. I have my breakfast date with my wife, my sushi night, my movie night. I put even the balance of my relationship all the way through there. But it's super fascinating. Like, I wanted to begin to understand time at a deeper level, and that's when I got a programmer to write a script to where like I could break it down into work, life, and health, right? And then how much time am I dedicating to each? And then I began to tag it and look at it, and boy, man, you guess what happens when you know where you spend every ounce of your time? You begin to live so intentionally. You begin to fully understand the value of all your time. But above all, you now begin to understand where can you apply systems or hire people to give you back time. And now it's a deeper level of time mastery. And another amazing benefit is you don't ever think, man, where'd the year go? You know what I mean? Because you know exactly where it went. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, and you built it and guided it that entire way, right? And so when I look at something like ridiculousness, it used to take me like 12 hours to shoot 2 shows. And I just slowly kept implementing systems and entirely different, hiring different people and creating new systems and optimizing how we shot it. And I keep... Man, it is so nuanced, like where I even now, the scripts that they send me for the shows that I'm about to shoot, now I grade those 0 to 10 so that I can now optimize for how to even make those better, because when those are better, my prep time is shorter and the shows are easier and they take less energy, right? And for me, I call it like, you know, I refer to it as a machine mindset, but ultimately it's design, automate, and optimize all aspects of your existence, right? Because greatness and depth is found in optimization. When you're constantly trying to design or start over or recreate, or, you know, especially people who do that every day, every week, every year, keep trying to like, oh, this year I'm going to do this, you know, versus like building your rhythm and your cadence and automating as much as you can so you can get back more energy in order to get to a place of optimization where then you can live this really big, really full life with very little energy and very little time, you know.
Because on the one hand, you know, machine mindset sounds pretty militant.
Yeah.
Right? Because the irony is, when I schedule very close to like what I'm doing, I thrive.
Yeah.
And then I find myself fucking distracted and then, you know, ADDing and like, well, but I got to get back to these guys, and but I got to get back to that, and then I'm sitting on a book that I need to get done. It's been a year, right?
Yeah.
So I get that, because part of me, when you say that, I'm like, oh, I can feel it, but then I can also hear people going, oh my God, that doesn't sound fun.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's almost as if you went so deep into time that you inverted it, and now time is actually probably slowing down and giving you it back in a certain way.
100%. Like, life moves for me slower. I can see further. Right? I understand how long things take me. I understand like my goals and ambitions and what I hope to achieve. There's things that I'm working on that'll come out 4 or 5 years from now. There's things that are coming out now. You know, I really made this big push of sharing my sort of way of thinking and my philosophy, and a lot of my business content came out this last year. But I had, you know, built, you know, 18 companies and had, you know, $400-500 million in transactions before I decided to talk about it, you know. And but beyond the track record of what it was, it's the knowledge base that I developed. I'm evolving in sort of a rapid pace of growth continually, right? And so again, that sort of control of it, and I always say this to anyone, because I always think like, if depending on who you are, you'll get is depending on what level of depth you're going to get, right? And when someone can have a conversation with me that kind of understands it to where I can begin to spread some deeper level into it, especially when it relates to something as complex and seems so cumbersome and impossible as tracking every bit of your time. It seems obnoxious. But it took me years and years to finally grow in to be able to do it, to where it became automated, to where it became effortless. Because that, you know, from, you know, like, you know, the Stoics to Napoleon Hill, it's self-mastery is where your peace is always going to be found, right? And self-mastery always starts with discipline, but then discipline turns into habit, but the habit turns into intuitive living, your way of life. And when you get to that is when you, like, everything is effortless. And I've driven this level to an effortless state. And to your point of sort of how you know you got to do all these things and how you know you got to be in the structure, it's no different than the same way you look at someone who tries to eat healthy. Right? Where like they try to eat healthy for a little bit, and then because their cadence, their system, their internal clock, if you will, is built to be unhealthy and eat unhealthy, the same way that you spent, 50 years developing your process, unwinding and regrowing another process as it relates to this more what seems to be a militant, overly disciplined way of living is difficult, right? At first. But everything is difficult at first, and you grow into it and you get better and better at it at time. And I would say fundamentally, I've applied that to all aspects of my existence multidimensionally to make up the life that I live today,
Well, so like digging in a little bit, like, so all of this knowledge, all of this is self-knowledge that you've been cultivating for a long time. Like, and you came from what, Ohio?
That's right.
Right? You're
right.
skateboarding.
Kettering, Ohio. Quit high school to be a pro skateboarder. Made like $800 in the first year. Got a check for $2 in the Christmas of '91. So very unusually humble beginnings for a guy to talk like this,
I mean, the fact that you were making a few $100 and you're like, I'm done with school. Like, dude, like your parents must have went fucking apeshit.
Oh, to this day, when I say I quit high school because I got makes her so mad. Makes her so angry. Like,
Still.
You're a loser. They makes you sound like a loser. Like, and it's like, I want to say I said it like recently in something, and it's because the nuances, I didn't go to my senior year. I took a night class and got it 1/2 credit that gave me enough to get a diploma. So technically, I'm not a high school dropout because losers, according to Patty Dyrdek, are high school dropouts. You know what I mean?
And was that almost medication for her, just to finalize?
No, there's nothing. I mean, you look. She will forever be trapped in a closed mindset. I like to say I grew up in a fixed mindset. Went to a fixed mindset school with a fixed mindset family, who basically said he's gonna have to get a job like the rest of us. You know what I mean? And then what does a fixed mindset mother do? Worries about every risk you ever take. And when is this whole thing going to end? And you're going to have to come back and get a job. Right.
She's still there, right?
Still there. Like, I don't understand how you can spend all this money. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's never not been a thing. It's just the scale of it. She just can't get past it, even at this scale. You know what I mean?
I think you and my mom would be amazing friends because my mom has no idea what I do.
Yeah.
No idea.
Yeah.
When we had a certain buyout of these nuts that I found, certain partners just wasn't working, relationships weren't working inside, so we bought them out. And all my mom talks about is, hey, how are those nuts going? Are you selling a lot of them? That's the only thing she can get her head around.
Yeah.
She doesn't understand TV. She doesn't understand any of this weird shit that I'm doing. So going back to that, because I am eternally curious of self, of life, of the mystery, of the quantum, of this just grand mystery. At the same time, worked very hard to stay grounded. I'm from Minnesota. I love working hard. I love connecting to people. What for you, like, what's the biggest, I guess, number one, what was the switch for you go, oh man, this is an inner deal. This is a spiritual deal. When did that happen?
I think it's always been inside me.
Yeah.
Right? I've always felt like, I used, in the Fantasy Factory days, it was make your own luck, right? Like, it was this idea that you were in control of your destiny. Like, I constantly, I really began to feel sort of the universe and the law of attraction from a very young age, and kept continually taking risks and taking shots, and then being rewarded for them, working incredibly hard and positioning myself to get lucky time and time again. And then I think as I got older, right, because I finally realized, and not till later, right? It wasn't like, I'm talking like this, where I am today at 48 is the product of discovery at like 39. You know what I mean? It wasn't like I was, in this perfect path to get here. I was basically at the bottom at 39. And like, in the sense of, I had like all of these things going on. I had a cartoon on Nickelodeon, a professional skateboarding league, 2 television shows on MTV, all this, like all of that, all these multiple businesses, signature products, all these endorsement, all these things. But I was like booming and busting and booming and busting, and ultimately
Internally, you mean? Like
just working really hard. Then why am I even doing all this? Like, oh, like I couldn't, like, what is, like, is this going to be the reason? Is this going to be the one? I almost like to equate it that my energy, I was using it to go like 5 different directions. So I was just bound tight. Right. And even physically, right? Like I was in the absolute best shape of my life in that exact era, right? And I would do these crazy circuit workouts where I'd wear a heart monitor and run these hills and work out, and it was like exactly the amount of time I was above anaerobic threshold, and the time compared to the time it took me to do the workout was what I'd give my effort score. And then I began to optimize for that. It's like, oh, don't use a shake. If you have oatmeal, you can get higher effort scores. I was in the most, 8% body fat, like just the absolute best shape of my life. And I was achy. Calf always feeling weak, like wonky, hamstring always popping, like upper trap always aching, like
Tight
have this like pain, this like, it's not sciatica, but there's like a nerve pain in my back, lower back here, like constantly going to chiropractors, like and basically knew at that point, it was almost literally all in one sort of moment, I realized that I cannot go on living this way. You can't just keep building company, building television shows, doing bigger, more and more things, and just keep like, I'm just gonna keep working out this way. And I could tell I was building my whole life in dysfunction. Despite it being, from the outside looking in, relatively fun and successful, I knew internally that everything was bound tight, and I literally, there's no, like, basically went on the journey to basically rebuild my entire existence, which then, over time began to understand my body and really like what you actually need to do to heal and get your body fully aligned, and then getting your entire financial strategies aligned, your business strategies, what you actually want out of a career, like what you want out of relationships and life in general, and all of these different things began to align together at once, is what happened to me in 2012 and 13. That really then set the stage for me to be able to grow and evolve into this state, to where, like, now I'm almost controlling my evolution. I like to say I'm systematically evolving, because I'm pointing what I want to evolve, the direction I want to evolve, and then allowing my entire life to evolve in that direction, which is serving the bigger vision I have for my purpose and my legacy, and ultimately my harmony and happiness, right? Like, is the evolution. But I always had the seeds. I had the seeds. It was like I had to finally stop and finally begin to put in processes and systems to actually nourish it and create it. And what is it? It's 10 times crazier than I could have ever imagined when I was like, this would be a good idea in 2013. And the process of 2014 and 15, when I really went on the self-discovery to develop it, and I launched it basically in 2016 and began this journey, and realized it in a pretty quick manner, right? Of sort of like, this would be my ideal life. And because what happens, it's the art, science, and magic, man. You have to put a vision to it and create the path wherever you want to go. The science is you got to create goals and systems to actually get there. And then the magic is, boy, oh boy, did a lot of things go my way as I continued to gain clarity and make decisions and let the universe and guide me into the right opportunities that led to finding an immense amount of success as I envisioned it, not as I planned it, but as I envisioned it, and then of course who I became in this amount of time is so much different, because you expand into life and you gain all this knowledge and experience that becomes part of your toolbox that you now get to live on a higher plane with. And I see myself doing that forever.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Dude, there's just so much. It's so trippy, because everything you're saying is just like, you know, you can say there's a reason why I wanted to talk with you, like however long, because there's so many kind of interesting parallels, and I'm still going through, like, you know, driving myself. Like, I have vision, and I'm clear. I'll fucking drop everything when I know something, like leaving fucking Minnesota the day after graduation on a Harley Davidson. I'm out, right? And I just knew, right? And so following that nectar, I'd always surrender when there was a shift and a knowing, to the point where I can't, like, fucking TV show with Zac Efron, that wasn't planned, right? It's like none of that stuff. Right. So, but at the same time, it's like, okay, cool. What else? And what's next? And all of those things. And so there's this place where I can still flip-flop into driving myself, and then, oh, fuck, bulge disc in my neck and tight and tension and, oh, fuck. Power and force, man. I can pop in and out of that shit, because if I feel and see something, I then try to will it sometimes. But at the same time, I know that what you're saying, I've had plenty of magic in my life, right? Feel it, go into action, and then fucking serendipity steps in. It trumps you every time. Always. Every time, right? And so I haven't been able to speak it in the same, I guess haven't been at the place where I've been able to talk about it. But personally, what you're saying, in my own way, it's like, that's the whole deal.
Yep.
But the world would never know that with you, especially, right? Because you're like, look at that hockey sticking. You've basically been hockey sticking most of your life, right? So, yet you're driving yourself, stressed and internally challenged in the body. So was it like the physical side of it that was kind of, because I know for me, the body tells me every time, and I just like, whoa, what's going on? Was it that was the barometer? It was just all of this stuff kind of crushing you at the same time?
Well, look, it's all of it matters.
Yeah.
All of it matters. And the physical body is in my, you know, the way that it has revealed itself to me over the last few years is the physical body cannot lead the mental body to freedom. Right? And ultimately the physical body is bound because of the mental body. And and I'll tell you what I really did that really began to change everything for me, and is I started using qualitative data to make quantitative changes. I started asking myself every single day to rate how I felt about my life, my work, and my health, 0 to 10.
Every day.
Every day. And so I call it qualitative awareness. So when you just ask yourself how you feel about your life, well, I mean, if I was at a 5, it would take, you know, I wasn't totally hopeful, I wasn't negative. If I was a 4 and below, negative about everything. Yeah. Like, wish I wasn't on TV anymore. Wish I didn't buy that car. Like, what am I doing? Like, negative about everything. 6 and above, I'm hopeful. But by doing that on a consistent basis, man, in life, work, and health, you begin to see these things that keep popping up that are part of bringing you down. And that became this incredible, the only way that I could fish out the stuff that was inside me that there's no way to pull out of you by working hard or even
subconscious
stuff.
Yeah,
It's so deep to like, and then you don't even, when you say it the first time, like, oh, it's this particular person that works with me that's got me down again, like, and it's someone you're super close to and love working with, and then you see it 4, 5, 6 times. It's like, man, your quality of life will always be in jeopardy if you continue to work with this person, right? And so I just began to like everything that I would feel that would pull me down, I just began to make note of and began to change, right? And now today, and you got to keep in mind now at scale, right? After doing it for 6+ years, and now having it became essentially my quality of life score. So I could show you in pure data of like how my life used to be so like much more high and low, even when I was like fully already on my journey and being balanced and on my mission. How many more highs and low days, and my quality of life that's gotten better and better and better over the last 5-6 years in numbers, right? Through how do you feel data. Now, that required discipline. That required a immense amount of like commitment and consistency for it to create value and application, but I got better and better at it over time. In the first couple years, I do it, 6-7 times a month rather than like 30 days, right? Now I haven't not done it in years, right? Because it's just part of my life. And
so you're still doing it.
I still do it because it's still so. I can tell you last year, I had like 12 bad days, right? And those 12 bad days, I averaged.
Was that below 5?
No. Like I would never even. I don't think I've only been below 5 on health. Getting COVID, like maybe going on like drinking a little bit too much and losing the diet a little bit, like a couple things. If I compound being healthy, I'll give myself low numbers if my weight fluctuates or whatever, right? But when you look at 2020, which I thought was the most incredible year of my life, compared to 2021's like data, compared to 2022, it's like you can see the quality of life. And if you connected it to my goals and my financial goals, my relationship goals, my time management, if you looked at how all of those things work together, you will see that it's like how much more balanced and happier and wealthier and healthier I am over that time period because I've quantified it in a way, right? And for me, man, I know not only do I feel this extraordinary existence and this amazing life, but I have seen how I've grown into it, right? And so it's incredibly powerful, but it's the other side of making up your mind you're going to commit to something like this and then getting better and better at it over time.
Right. Well, what I love about it is that it's so easy for people, all of us, just to go about life. Wake up, let's see what happens. What's the television going to tell me? What all of that stuff. But even the act of business, life, and health, right? And asking that question, you're asking yourself. Like you're taking a moment, going, "Hey, you, Rob, how you doing in this, and this?" That screams at me as powerful. Just that alone, because you're being self-aware. You're asking yourself. You're stopping enough to go, "Hey, man, how are things going?"
Yeah.
And how little do people actually implement that in
it doesn't
any
exist.
form? Right.
It doesn't exist.
Right.
It's like even when people like think of like, you could do that in meditation. Oh, you can do. It's not the same thing ultimately. It is like asking you how you feel about your life. And it's the simplest question, but when you start to like really look at it, and if you do it once or twice, right. I posted a Instagram story. It was like 0 to 10. How do you feel about your life? And some people 10, 0, the Biden administration. It's like it's like you see the range of people in there. And then you'll see people in there. It's like I'm probably a 6 because I got a better job, but I'm working on what I'm doing in the future. Like there's some people in there that if they applied this that they could actually make great change because they have the baseline of self-awareness to use qualitative awareness to actually change their being, right? And to me, again on that serendipity, like law of attraction, when I wanted to figure out how to build companies, I searched out all the consultancy groups and found this consultancy group out of Seattle called Arrive. The CEO, Chris Smith, sort of a self-made, sort of strategist who built his own company. Like he pitched me on like his vision on how to build the machine. Like, okay, like this is the Dyrdek machine, my venture studio. Then he started like introducing me to all of these processes as it relates to rhythm of company and sort of all the different facets of a company and how they interconnect, right? And I began to see my life like that. And then he actually helped me develop an operating model for my life, which I called the rhythm of existence. And he introduced me to just the idea of like, hey, to assess where you're at since it's your life, you could just ask yourself, and over time you'll have like a data point. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. But I just added that to it, not even thinking of it, thinking of like what an impact it would actually have on basically molding and helping me shape myself into getting up every single day and enjoying every single hour of the day. With the exception of disruptions and new things that come in that you have to manage. But what it provided me is unbelievable value that's now part of my toolbox that will shape me forever, that then I'm going to turn around and share with people and create a tool for them to use it to help them create and reshape their lives the same way it did for me, you know.
Well, it's so powerful. Again, it's like that who are you? What are you? Where are you going? What do you want to create? It's like that quintessential thing. If you don't ask yourself questions, you just are existing. You're just floating around.
That's it. You're at the world. You're at the whim of the world.
Yeah.
And then if you live there, you blame the world.
Right.
Because it is the world's fault.
Right.
Because you're letting the world take you from thing to thing, and these continual things, like, you know, continually keep you in that state. And then when you step back and you think about somebody who has a bad life system, right? They wake up late and barely get to work. Like, they want to work out, but they can't. They're tired now because they stayed up late because they wanted to finish, like, House of Dragon. And then, like, they end up just getting a chips for snack because they got to get caught up on the work that they didn't do. You just end up in this place. Then you're exhausted by the time the weekend comes and you want to drink. Then you're hungover on Monday recovering just to get back. Your system now has, like, in a place, and now that's your body adheres it, and your mind creates, this is how we function. We've got to, like, basically learn to function as best as we can in this dysfunction. And then you put 20 years on that. Now you wonder why your back is hurting, and, like, you got plantar fasciitis, and, like, you know, you got a gut, and like your cholesterol's up, and, like, oh no, you heard that gut health is this thing, and oh man, I got leaky gut. You know what I mean? Maybe that's probably too technical for them, but it's all of these things combined that are all actually the outputs of your bad system, right? It's why athletes break down at 35, 36, is that youthful body can hang with this dysfunctional system to a certain degree, versus what is at the core of Tom Brady's functionality. It is the relationship between his muscles, his nervous system, and his skeletal structure in his mind. So what happens every time he moves, his body moves the way his mind expects it to move, from just making sure that entire thing is working properly, where most people just focus on strength and will build strength at the risk of compensation, and compensation ultimately will create degenerative joints and begin to, like, you know, create hypertonic muscles that then atrophy smaller muscles, and then ultimately lead you to a point where, like, boom, you take one wrong step and there goes the Achilles. You know what I mean? It's that sort of holistic sort of aspect that most people could never find, because they were raised by people that didn't think that. They're raised a world that doesn't think that, and then it's so hard to feel. Right? It's when you have so much, like, so many aspects of your entire life system in some sort of, like, it doesn't even have to be major dysfunction, just ordinary dysfunction. It's hard to see through all of that chaos to ever get to a place where you could find harmony in all aspects of your being, you know?
Yeah, then then ask yourself how you feeling. You're like, this sucks.
Right.
Right.
And then you feel so bad you don't want to ask yourself again.
Totally.
It's like weighing yourself.
And then you
like,
go pick up that drink again.
Yeah, it literally is like weighing yourself when you know you've been drinking a lot and eating a ton of pizza. You know what I'm saying? Like,
do I really want to see that number?
Right? Do you even want to ask? What is it? It's shitty. I don't want to do it. Like,
right.
You're already so negative from it, you know. And again, back to this idea of anyone that would listen to this be like, this is just too much. This is just too much. Like, you got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And again, even if it is just like getting up earlier and walking. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm going to just try to eat healthy for one meal a day, right? Yeah. Like, you grow into it over time. Sure. And if you stay committed to it, you learn more and more about yourself, about your body, about what makes you happy, about what makes you feel healthy, you know, like, but if you then dedicate to like, how do I master all aspects of my existence, then you begin to grow and expand into it, and setting goals and quantifiable measurement. Now you get motivated. Because now you're making progress towards the better you, the better life, these better things. That's where you can still create a ton of happiness by just creating a plan for yourself and beginning to live it, rather than getting to happiness be the outcome. You know, sustained happiness infinitely is the goal, you know.
Well, just the act of deciding that over there, or that thing that I want, I'm now committing. Just that act alone is already gifting you chemistry, biology, and then now quantum, of course. Now the serendipity and the luck quotient starts going up, and every day you start doing that. And, you know, and that's the thing. So, yeah, there's a lot of people listening, everybody. It's like, instead of waking up and saying, God damn it, that administration or this administration, and then that now is dictating your outlook.
Yep.
And it's like, no, you got to take yourself responsible for that, and yeah, it is swallowing a big pill. You know, there's certain things that I get encouraged by, but it is the courage of asking. There was a little separate topic, but it was encouraging in the sense that there was this environmental group that did a study, and they asked normal people, and they're drinking water out of water bottles, right? Plastic. And they're like, how do you feel about that? And they're not people that feeling anything about it, right? They're just buying water. But when you ask them, they said, yeah, I don't like it. I wish there was another choice. Yeah. Right? So it's like we innately have the right choice in us. And what they came out with is nearly 90% of the people wanted another choice and would, in fact, support brands who were making that other choice, as long as it wasn't way overpriced.
Yeah.
So that's the encouragement of all of us. Yeah. Of that's in us, right? If we're willing to go, whoa. Who am I? What am I? Where am I going? How's my life? What do I want my life? If we're willing to construct that and take a beat, we will find that there's so much there that is willing to kind of gift us back. And I think what do you think the best way to kind of start that process? Yeah, just aside from what you just said, wake up, drink some water and meditate.
I don't, I think, designing the life that you want, and really like, hey, these are my financial goals, these are my career goals, and not goals in an ominous way that like, oh, I gotta get them or I'm never like, I'm not who I want to be, because goals change, right? Yep. What you want today will change. I do literally my 5-year and 15-year goals every quarter. Because I'm like,
and they're adjusting probably.
They're just adjusting all of the time, right? And it's because that's sort of and it's fascinating, because it's like, even for me, it's like when I look at like my quarterly goals from like first quarter 21 compared to what I did in the year and how much I changed by the time Q3 and 22, it's so enlightening. Because the world's evolving, you're evolving, everyone around you's evolving. So what is your ideal life is going to be evolving too, right? And so, but if we don't put a stake in the ground and and set sort of the standard of like not necessarily about like, you know, I like to refer to it as thriving. Like for you to be thriving, like how would you take care of yourself? How often would you work out? Would you meditate? Would you brain train? Like what would you eat? How many times to eat? If you just design that, right? And then, okay.
What does thriving look like to me?
Yeah, that just because it's so personal to everyone. And then it has to be something you believe in and that you believe if you did would make the best version of yourself. Then you look at your relationships, your free time, like the people you're closest with. How much time would you spend with them? How would you make it a higher quality? What would you do? You just look at that, right? And now when you look through that two constructs right there, you're now asking yourself to dedicate a certain amount of time to each of these in order for them to thrive and feel like they're balanced and harmonious, right? Then you look at your career and now it's like, okay, well, this is I'm doing this for purpose, but is it making me the money to be able to live the lifestyle that I see for myself, or ultimately I connect with my identity? And okay, maybe in order to save the money I need to be able to live the way that I want to live and do the things that I want to do, I'm going to sacrifice and have a job I don't like as much because I make more, and I'm going to do as much as I can to make it as effortless as possible so I can spend the time on my health or spend the time on with my family or the people I'm closest with or the stuff that I enjoy doing, my passions outside of that. Your design's in that world. Your design's in sort of financial harmony, your career and income harmony, your leisure and relationships, and your health, right? And your mental and physical health, right? And you have to design, man, if I lived every day, every week, every month, every year, and got to this state, saved this much money, had this job, spent this much time here, and did this for my health, boy, that'd be amazing. And so for me, it sounds simple and it's incredibly difficult. Then it's incredibly difficult to stay motivated without seeing some form of progress, right? And that's why, like I speak about life design so much and speak about it in this really easy way, and like, oh, if you could just, all you got to do is block out your time, then you can do all these things. But even for me, like, I needed to see, it's when I block out my time to do all these things and create my routine. I began to track every day. Did I get up at 5? Did I brain train? Did I meditate? Did I get in the gym? Did I eat clean? Did I not drink? Right? And like, even though I was tracking it, I wasn't seeing it. It wasn't till I saw it in the dashboards and then began to see monthly averages and began to like gamify it, did I begin to get incredibly disciplined, right? Wow, when I began to automate all of this stuff and automate my time and then automate my discipline and gamify it, because I looked at 2000, I built the program to basically automate my discipline and turn it into dashboards at the end of 2020. And I looked at 2020 as my most disciplined and amazing year, right? But when I went back and looked at like my month over month qualitative numbers and then my weight numbers and body composition, then I looked at my discipline numbers and look like, God, look at like how high and low you were for the whole year. Then I set a goal I knew if I committed to doing those core 6 things 80% of the time, that would drive up the correlation of how I felt about my life, work, and health, because I could see it in the numbers that, man, when you commit to your health, look what it actually does to the quality of your life. Then in 2021, it was this extraordinary breakthrough where, I got up at 5, brain trained, meditated, got in the gym, ate clean, and started taking supplements to the track, and didn't drink like 86% of the entire year. And then I went from averaging like, between the 3 scores around, having 19 at the highest and 16 at the lowest average month with with like an average of 18. I went into 2021 where I had 20s across the board. So I could see in the numbers only after I gamified my discipline and then wanted to like stay consistent so that I could beat my numbers and stay consistent month over month. And that, again, was another awakening for me of like, God, look what happened. All this extraordinary energy is created. Then all the law of attraction's kicking in, the quantum field. I like to refer to last year. Last year, I was at such a state, I referred to it as an abundance vortex, where it was like I was just spinning. I was at such an quantum level energetic state that just like the craziest things were just finding me, like of everything that was like pushing, accelerating me towards the vision of the things that I was hoping to accomplish, and why, and I'll say to you, the same way that you would have never thought that, like, man, like I knew he was like on a certain level. I didn't know he was like at this level, like, and nobody knows that he's at this level, right? It's the same way that this way of thinking and this philosophy, I'm building a plan to be able to share, like, that will ultimately be the only thing that I'm known for 15 years from now.
That's your legacy.
You know what I'm saying? Where you just continue to like the same way that like if you're playing the short and long game, like you can begin to see who you are and have patience with purpose. Right, like rather than like try to like rush out and be like, look, I'm a super like tactical, gifted, successful entrepreneur, and like I've got life figured out. You know what I mean? And try to like rush out to be like, this is what it is. It's like, hey, like keep like grow into it. And then as I got to a certain level, it's like, man, you need to share this with people. And now it's almost like I'm living in this meta state of growing and evolving while looking at myself and learning the lessons of how they'll be teachable into a system that others can apply while you're learning it, right? And growing into it. And ultimately creating these tools that others can use intuitively and easily, and start with just simply asking one question a day and tracking two things and just blocking off a little bit of time to make it easy before you can grow and learn to utilize all of these different tools to be able to get to a much higher level output with lower effort life,
Yeah, because that's how it happens anyway.
Right.
So you got to build it. When's that going to be ready?
I'm in the middle of even for the book that I'm creating, and ultimately the series, I'm looking at it as like this entire multi-dimensional universe of content, and from how I'm designing and evolving the podcast into essentially 200 different volumes, right? That will basically be a continual sort of tool to basically eventually then go use the software that can help you, ultimately manage time, energy, and clarity, right? Because ultimately you have to constantly be assessing on where you're headed and why, and then be dedicating the time to get there, then be evaluating as you're doing it, is it working, is it not working, right? That's going to help you continuously evolve and optimize into your version of a harmonious, high-quality life, right? And so it's almost like the magnum opus of all my skill sets, right? Where it's like my way of living, my strategic mind, my business mind, my content mind, all into one universe. But I'm building it all ahead of time before I launch it all together, right? So it's this beautiful, cohesive, multi-platform approach. And then I want to make sure that I find the simplicity on the far side of complexity to where the most people can get the most value out of it, right? Rather than just launch and get it out and it's too heavy and people don't use it, or I push the concept too deep and it's they can't even get to begin to apply it, right? Like I've got to
blow them out too.
Yeah, I got to develop it in that stage, and I found the perfect writer to write the book, and then just said, hey, I'd just like to pay you for 2 years, and let's just begin to ideate. While I'm ideating on how the software will work and how all the content will connect, I hired the content guy, hiring the software group to develop it, and I'm doing it all simultaneously, so that because each will inform the other. Sure. So by the time that I do it, it's this beautifully cohesive, timeless sort of package. Because I also know it's not like I want to go and do this and this is the only thing I do for the next year. I know that I'm just going to continually be, that this is my stage right now of something I want to create and share, but it won't be what I do for the rest of my life. Because again, I know by doing all this planning, seeing so far and seeing so tightly and continually getting better and better at realizing the visions and understanding yourself through all of this data and all this time tracking, when I look at, I know I'm going to want to slow down in about 4 or 5 years, right? Like, and probably be working more in like the 15% range, right? And I'll most likely want to be doing one-off exciting projects that have these sort of finite arcs, while my kids now are between the ages of like, 8 and like 16, right? And this year where we can experience life together as a family before they don't even want to hang with their crazy dad who's worried about their biomechanics. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they just want to go with their friends to the mall or whatever they're going to do, right? It's like, because I know that window is going to be limited, and I already get to experience my family and my kids to the absolute fullest because I designed my life that way, and am not compromising that as it relates to finding the success that I need to be satisfied, And so when you put that all together, man, you begin to see so far, and you also begin to fully understand how long things are going to take you, and then you can have patience, and I continually adjust those timelines. I don't force myself into like, these things have to be done in certain times unless they have to be done in certain times, right? There's certain points where, on some projects I wouldn't allow a company that I build to go through this like long drawn out iterative process. Let's get this thing to market and start iterating and testing and seeing if there's a product that people want to connect with. Like, you need to get to that sooner than later. And I'll go through that same process with this, but the difference is like, I love it so much that it's like win or lose, fail if I end up putting 500 core users on the software or 500,000, you know what I mean? It's like it's still going to be what I use to maintain and automate and gamify my harmonious, high quality life,
Yeah, it's like for some reason we're never taught how to like live life.
It's bizarre.
It's bizarre.
It's because we're built to work. We're built to work, get a house, have a family, push them, like, do better than we did type vibe, especially from the Midwest, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's like, we have to kind of, we're in these situations where we set a goal, we blast it, we get it or we don't, and then we come to find out, shit, that didn't give me what I thought it was going to give me, and this whole thing, and this is what we're saying. This is the unpacking of the cultural norm, or the writing that's been written before us. Instead of going, wait a minute. I remember a good buddy of mine, Tom Shadyac. So he wrote many movies, all that shit. So from Jim Carrey to blah blah blah. But he had a near-death experience, head injury. Then he had this documentary called Happy, right, about what happiness is really about. But then he was teaching at Pepperdine, right? And he said, come by the class. And so I came by, and it was life and film. He didn't talk about film. He talked about life. And they didn't even know what was going on. And everyone just showed up for the class, whether they were in it or not. And it was unbelievable. And he started to explore the life, and people naturally migrated towards it. Outside of any class they had, it was a full stadium of kids. So it's like it's innate within us and yet we still do this shit, right? Accountant, doc, not that there's anything wrong with any of that stuff, but the programming of it all is just insane to me.
Yep.
It's never, I don't know, it's never hit me. I'm like, what do I want to do? First, I got to get the fuck out of Minnesota. It's way too cold.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then next, I'm like, well, what do I want to, how do I want to contribute? Because money's going to come.
Yeah.
Not that it's just going to show up. You got to plan for it and invite it and create a cylinder for it. But it's just so weird. Like, as you're talking, I'm sitting there going, it's 2022.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this stuff? And then,
but I do. We live in this age where it's the beginning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it really started. I mean, I don't know if you've ever read The Science of Getting Rich.
Yes.
Okay, but it was written in 1910, right? And it is about like the power of evolution, the importance of reflection, and like how like tapping into the universe. It's like, it's as a man thinketh, think and grow rich. All these things that were like starting from the era of the Carnegies and the Rockefellers. Like there's beginning to this sort of self-made, and you can create a future if you can see it in your mind type of thing. And it's just evolution, right? It takes so long, and only some parts of the whole are evolving and moving to the iterative version, right? And we innately do it. Most people innately do it, especially if you're a searcher, right? And like you have a quest to kind of understand things and bring order to things, and what does it all mean, sort of way of thinking, which again is muted by religion, right? Like, this is what it means, right? Like, no need for you to think about that. It's just God out there, you know what I mean? Like, and so even though there's a basis for what what the universe is in all religions, it is still like that personal self-discovery and self-mastery in creating your own reality and ultimately your own universe. If you are the creator, that sort of mentality is just slowly been leaking into like our society and Earth over the last 100 years. Now, keep in mind, there's 1 billion people on the planet in 1900.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's 8 billion, like 100 years later, and like we just took a photo of a exoplanet. You know what I mean? It's like we're rapidly discovering more and more and understanding more and more, and this is sort of that process. But if you're listening to this, right? If you hear me talk, it's like, man, it's your choice. You can make the decision to begin to make change regardless of your age. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and all you want to do in life is look out in the future, define where you would like to be and why, and then go create a plan to go get it. And guess what? As you get there, it can become too hard. You could see it clearer and not want to do it anymore. Right. All of these things can change.
Other inputs. Maybe you have another goal, but you have to start.
But it's that continually, and again, why I say I feel like I'm perpetually evolving into my limitless potential is because I'm in that sort of constant state of growing, assessing, evolving towards what I believe is the best version of myself that's continually evolving and changing as I'm evolving and changing. Right. But the flow state of its pursuit is where the harmony and the pure joy of life exists. Yeah. You know, and that's what I'm most proud of. Mm-hmm. It's what I want everyone else to be able to find and feel. And because I know anybody can design it and live it the same way that I have, right? Yeah. Because I was the extreme of like where you would just do 1,000 things. You know, I was the, no structure, compared to growing into this level of structure,
Yeah, so it's this time. I think, aside from that, because that is a beautiful thing that you can gift to the world in a sense that it's a life design. Right? It's a very quantifiable life design, and it is about, at that core, asking yourself, how are you doing? Right? How's it work? How's life? How's your health? And therein lies the seed of pleomorphic benefit, right? You got to plant the seed. You got to ask the question. So you're building that. Can't wait to see it. please keep me in the loop, because I'll blast that as much as possible, because I think I think purpose is neutered in the world, and in the same kind of breath, right? There's this whole thing of we can, and everyone listening, you can do that. And there seems to be, in a certain plane of existence, things that don't want you to do that, right? Or just like be the soldier, be the employee, be the, just go through the motions, pay your rent. It just there is maybe it's that culture thing too, but innately there's this through line that you're talking about, that I know, that that I think everybody knows.
Yep.
And maybe our moms, they don't.
Yeah, no,
they're not.
No. She definitely doesn't. There's no evolution in her whatsoever, man. Static.
Yeah, that's
static since like 64.
It's just keeping with it.
Yeah, and look, it's you can achieve it from any plane of life.
Yeah.
You're just trying to take control, right? And even if you have a normal job, the job has a framework, security, sustainability for you now to act from. Mm-hmm. If you know that you have to be at work at 9 and that you finish at 5 and you're going to make $70,000 a year and take home 55, you have now the framework by which to build your financial path to freedom, right? You can choose to live in a cheaper space and take a bus and save $20,000 a year to be able to get to $100,000, to be able to put a down payment on a multiplex, to be able to begin to earn passive income that you can then now scale to a net. You can design the plan from whatever framework you live in. It's the knowledge that you're missing. It's the belief that that's possible. It's taking the action and beginning to get there, because what you can do, it may feel complex to buy a duplex and be a landlord to you, and the idea of saving $100,000, even though TikTok tells you like, I don't need it. Forget my 401k. When am I going to be 25 in Italy? You know what I mean? Whatever it is, it's which I prescribe to too. You know what I mean? Live your life the way that you want, but what you experience today, your reality that you feel today is based off of every single decision and choice you made in the past. And then today it is your choice to create new plans, new strategies, new decisions that will lead to a better future. So you have to make the decision regardless of your circumstance. Right now, I'm not saying if you're like don't have a job and like you're in a very, very like more tragic, deeper level physical health, all these those are extenuating circumstances. But if you are someone that's capable and has the ability and understands learning and growing and is capable, you can build a plan for yourself to get there. And again, even school, I believe schools are this beautiful framework. Think about this, how beautiful they are. You have to like hit a certain number, a certain letter to be able to go on to the next one. And we know each step of the way, here's the things you're going to learn. And then if you want to specialize towards a career, then you go to college. And if you specialize the right way, here's the path that all the things you got to learn, you're going to be graded on. And ultimately, it'll put you in a position to create a career that you can get to here. And this could be where your ideal life is. Right. Beautiful frameworks. The problem is most people just go through school of just trying to get by. Right. Then they go to college because they think they're supposed to go to college and then never even figure out. Then they just are constantly trying to figure out what they want. Yeah. Then they have no framework by what to work with, right. And they never learned money because they don't teach us money or how to like even manage money or even what money means to us, right? Then it's just like you're just trying to get a job, and then it's like now I don't want to be a slave to this job. I want to be able to have fun. Like now you're in this constant struggle. Then your health, as you get older, it's more important to take care of your health, but your health now can't be a priority because like just trying to like live life without being sad and watching everybody live this amazing life on Instagram, like, you know, and all this stuff, like you get caught in that chaos. Yeah. and being able to put yourself in a position to take the action to slowly like build your life and build a way out of that is just difficult.
Yeah.
And without some, my goal is to create a framework that's easy to follow, that you can grow into and see the progress towards your ideal life, that can keep you motivated and get you to stay focused on your health because you feel better, you're more efficient at work, you're faster, so you can work on your side hustle at night with more energy and more clarity, and now you're moving towards your savings goal that you create a plan for that's eventually leading you to financial harmony. Because make no mistake, I was a guy that would make millions, invest millions, lose millions, make millions, invest millions, lose millions. Like, I didn't save any money. I didn't understand money. I didn't even understand, despite, having so much financial success, I didn't even stop and learn money until I was, 39 years old. And it started first with, okay, well, what do you even want money for? Why do you do all these things? What is and it was that sort of self-discovery that then led to sort of assessing how I make money and looking at how much pressure, constantly doing the next show or the next sort of big thing and constantly doing the next business, thinking this is going to be the thing that makes the money, going through all of that, knowing that sort of sustainability put so much pressure on my mind share and added to the stress. Then I had these big expenses and didn't fully understand, oh man, post-tax, you're basically just breaking even out here. And then really, the money that I had invested, I put it with 3 or 4 different brokers, and it was getting feed up and not even growing, but I didn't even understand what that was. And I kept using it to invest in other things. And then I discovered, what did I need to balance that? I needed an investment strategy that produced income that would balance off the high risk side of what I do from an entertainment perspective and this venture side, which led me to discovering sort of syndicated multifamily investment where you get tax efficient cash flows. Which then put me on a goal of here's the goal. I need to get as much money into those over time to where that covers my way of life. Then that peace of mind and financial harmony will be secure because I now know my lifestyle will never be at jeopardy for the identity that I've created for myself of, giant houses and Ferraris and flying private, right? I created this identity that I needed to that I said is well, that has to be your goal because this is the way you want to live. You know what I mean? This is just who you are. Right. And then that now created the plan that it didn't matter how much money that I made, I would continually either invest in my new ventures or put money into buildings. That was my simple plan. And then when I finally got to the place where I am now essentially set for life as it relates to my lifestyle from real estate investments. Think how much more peace of mind and mind share that gives me to dedicate in mental energy. Yeah. Because you could be in the best shape of your life, but if you are worried about your finances and don't have security, it's going to be sucking the soul out of you when you're thinking about it all the time and draining your energy. And again, I built that system in 2016 or 2013 and 14 and launched it in 2016 of the whole system together, including what I needed to do from a financial goal perspective that would essentially be me thriving in what harmony was in my life. And then as I got, a quarter of the way there, oh man, I could probably just live on this. I mean, I don't have to get a Ferrari all the time. I don't have to whatever it is. I don't. And then as it got growing, then when it got to halfway there, it's man, I'm really gonna do it, right? It's that belief horizon, and then the world conspired. I had an extraordinary amount of unpredictable success, and then now the system is grown to what I set in 2016 as thriving in 5 years, and accomplished my life what I would consider at the time I thought was 5 to 15 year goals in 5 years, right? And that acceleration only happened because I built the whole thing from a place of harmony, right? Rather than like thinking I needed one of these was going to do it. That entire system is what allowed me to find the success that I was able to find in a short amount of time, you know.
Yeah, and the thing that's obvious about that too, that I just want to illuminate, is that you could have still been making money, but the way that you were working with it and spending it and mismanaging it, you were a victim to it. Right? So it does. So people listening is like, oh yeah, well that's easy for you to say with money. Well, no, because money doesn't make you happy. Look at the lottery effect. Everyone who wins the lottery who doesn't have the acumen of understanding abundance loses it, and their life is worse than before when they won the lottery. Right? So there's research on stuff like that. So that's the thing. If people make money as the answer, I just need to make more money, I just need to win the lottery. No. You need to understand the life, the management, the mismanagement, and start that plan. And that's the perfect example.
Yeah, because it's like even me mismanaging a lot of money
yeah.
is no different than you mismanaging a little money.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
It's like if we don't like learn money, create a purpose for it, and then decide because there's a ratio. If you don't if you can balance your lifestyle, your cost of living to what you make and how much time it takes you to make that money, that's where you're going to find happiness, right? Like in a perfect world, you're doing something you absolutely love that makes you the money to live the way of life that you find rewarding and fulfilling, and that is sustainable, and that you're then creating a savings and investing it in a way that you can eventually make a choice to work or not, so that you could spend time doing other things that you would prefer to do. That ultimately cannot happen if you don't learn money and begin to design a plan for money, right? As it connects to your time, your energy, your career, your health, and your family and relationships and leisure time. All of that stuff's interconnected, and money's a huge part of it because it's a way of life. Now you could simplify it. You could be like, hey, I'm gonna make $100,000. I'm gonna spend $20,000. I'm gonna save $80,000, and when I get to after 20 years of saving $80,000, I'm gonna have enough to where I can live off the $20,000 until I die. You can create a super simple plan that doesn't involve the complexity of learning how to invest in different sort of ways. But either way, everybody will be playing in the same ratio. And if you have 20 times your living expenses and savings, you are a peaceful human being. You are not going to, if something can happen in your life and you have that set away, and again, that's extreme, but it's just showing if you go making $100,000 a year and spend $100,000 a year and have no savings and then lose your job, now you are and you're stressing because I want to go on that vacation though. Should I do it all? Put it on credit card. I'll go into debt to do it. Then I'll pay it off over the next couple years. It's like if you don't build financial harmony in your system, you're then going to be a victim of debt and ultimately, living check to check. I was only doing it at scale. Right. And
still doing it. And just doing it at scale.
Yeah, and I saw how much pressure it was putting on me and stealing mind share from being more creative and learning more and evolving more and looking more further into the future of the things that I wanted to do with purpose rather than what I needed to do to fulfill my financial needs, right? That is that trap. Again, that we're never taught to design for. It's either do what you love and the money will follow. It's either just save your money or else you're for a rainy day. It's it's just these extremes that rather than again, they're all part of the system that you need to design for yourself and set goals to grow into, because that's the only way for you to truly find harmony and happiness is for all those things to interconnect together and support each other. And
then the discipline interjected within all of that stuff.
Right.
You know, it's funny listening to you. I have a funny scenario with money. Like I kind of have this Huck Finn thing where it's like as soon as I get clear, the universe definitely helps me and supports me and stuff like that. But then I'm like, I didn't even look at like what I'm spending here and there and how many employees and what's the podcast making? I don't know. Like, it's just kind of like, what the hell's happening? So I'm like, oh, I should probably look at like what I'm doing here and what I'm doing there and the TV show here and the other creation there. And so it's like I'm getting a lot like you're just like uncracking me open. And I know it, and I've been kind of contemplating how I can do some of that. I'm not shy of ideas, right? I'm not shy of ideas. Luckily, some of the successes, like developing the shake for Beachbody, Shakeology, I mean, they sold it all, and it grossed $4 billion, and I got a little chunk of that stuff. And like they had a system that they did for me, right?
Yep.
So it worked. I just could be creative and put all this stuff together. And I know that. Put teams around our Baruka's stuff, but then there's bigger stuff. There's mind-bending technologies, green tech that I'm involved in that literally, dude, we could spend 3 hours talking to you about this and you'd be going, what? Like plasma arc, creating fuel out of hydrogen in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Like real shit. Mm-hmm. It's like, but then at that scale, like how do we mobilize that and create that and get the right partners? It's not about getting the money. It's about choosing the right people with money and all of that stuff. So, it's interesting. I don't know if I have a question there other than I'm just kind of like internally laughing how not structured I am in so many different ways. Because even, I definitely was committed and am passionate. Like I started formulating stuff because I was passionate about it and I saw crap food on the market, and so I started doing it. And then through the act of doing it, I got hired.
Yep.
Right? And like stuff has happened like that all the time. So I haven't been, I was just today going, God damn it, it's been almost 4 fucking years and I'm still in a yurt. I wanted to be back here. You know what I mean? I wanted to be back here for my dogs, really, and I want to be on the land. Yeah. But you don't know how much and how long it's going to take. If I would have known, I probably would have done something a little different.
Yeah.
But I do have a plan, but it's not as, I'm a little haphazard with, but I know I'm supported. That's the thing. Yeah. I know I'm supported by the universe. As soon as I get clear, but I could require a lot more clarity.
Yeah, and look, I was you at 39 years old. You know what I'm saying? Like, in the sense of one thing's for certain, the universe conspires, like, to deliver for me because I keep pushing.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
And the problem is the fact that I had such a deep blind spot on the financial side of business and life was actually causing the biggest dip in my qualitative numbers about life, right? So it became so evident that, like, man, your lack of understanding all things financial is actually one of the biggest drivers of reducing the quality of your life.
Bam.
Because you ignore it, and then when it comes in, boy, it comes in heavy. Right. And then you're back in the same place of like, man, I got to figure this out. But it's if you don't begin the process. Right. And man, I went on this mission. I hired a CFO consultant, who's this brilliant woman, and we just began to model everything. She taught me like every single aspect of building businesses financially. Then we began to build out an operating model for my life and every investment I have and every expense. And then I just got better and better and better at building and using financial models, not as these confusing things that I didn't fully understand, but after spending so much time focusing on really understanding all aspects of the financial side of the business, I eventually broke through to where it's the only thing. Hit me with the passion and the vision. Let me see the model to really understand if you understand your business. Now it is like the cornerstone of how I even evaluate opportunities. And then, I look at, like, I have this beautiful financial operating model that shows me year over year all of my expenses, every bit of money I made from all the companies that funnels into my top line personal, that goes into everything that I've ever earned, the taxes I paid, every expense that I've ever paid, regular expenses, what I call my core living expenses, and then extraordinary expenses, things that are not part of my core lifestyle. So that is all goes into a dashboard that's connected to all my assets, my net worth, and then what my cash producing assets are versus my personal income expenses by percentage. So there is no aspect of my existence on any company I own or any aspect of my life of every dollar that I do not fully, totally understand where it's at, why I spent it, and where it went, or how it's growing or what it's worth. In unthinkable 10 years ago, 8 years ago, you know what I mean? And to me, it was the thing that finally broke me through to the quality of life that I was never able to achieve. Because I had ultimately realized that I was living as if I was living and talking and acting like someone who had that depth of knowledge in business and life, but in fact was as blind as a bat. Like, didn't know how much was I paying in taxes. I'm like, what? Like, I remember one year it was like I made $6 million one year and was like, what? I was like, how on earth did I, like, really? I thought, man, I didn't even know how much money I made, right? And to me, like, that I was the epitome of what annoyed me that people treated me like back then. It was like, man, he's super talented, ambitious, like pro athlete, a pro skater that built like all these like companies, has cartoons and TV shows and all this stuff. Like, but they didn't treat me like I'm a business guy though. I'm a business guy, and like the truth is I'm was just like every other athlete, actor, talent, creative. Like, yes, I was raised by entrepreneur wolves and started my first company when I was 18 and built, 13 companies by the time, I had gotten to that age. But I had always built it with great operators, right? Why did that one really work? Well, in hindsight, it's because they have great infrastructure and they're an amazing operator. All I was like the talent and creative, and that's why that one worked. Why did this one not work? Well, because you were the operator, and you don't know finance very well or how to operate a business, right? So you hired the guy to operate it, where you couldn't even evaluate his skill set because you don't know how to operate, right? You're just like, you know what you're doing. Hire smart people. You're smart, right? Like that sort of context. But I digress to saying, when again, man, using that qualitative data about my life in 14 and 15 in that era, man, the thing that brought my life down the most was not understanding or having any clarity on how to build value, where beyond just making money from the things that I did, like how I was going to create value. And when I finally took the time to learn it and then create that financial plan and ultimately a strategy for financial harmony and then grew into it, it's like it's part of the anchor of the depth of my overall peace and happiness and harmony and ability to say no to more and work less. Because I created a financial system that I now know I don't need to do things or take time for things from a financial perspective, because my system now has built my sustainability. And now, and the funny thing is, it's like, even though I, am making generational wealth, right? This year, like extraordinary amount of generational wealth, okay, I still spent the same amount of money that I spent for the last 5 years. You know, because it's like, it's part of the system, right? It's like, okay, now I just have more capital to look at my deals, right? So now, like, where I would invest, you know, like $250 to $1 million in the ventures I would build and then raise money in the later rounds. Now it's like, okay, I'll do $1 million to $10 million, right? And have much bigger stakes in the businesses that I create going longer, and be more invested and have more control, because in the venture game, it's really about liquid dollars, right? It's not about valuation, and like on paper it's worth $100 million and I own half of it. It's like, cool. It's much better when you sell it for $100 million and get $50 million that you pay long-term capital gains on, you know? And so to me, part of like what I needed when I built my venture system was building everything with a finite goal into an exit strategy, and then manage the capital staging so that I would invest early, and then as they were growing, if they were successful, invest more so that I would reap the benefits at scale, right? When they were acquired, and then judge myself off of that liquidity. I couldn't even have created or spoke like that, or created that strategy that has made me hundreds of millions of dollars, if I did not take the time to learn money in 2013 and 14. Because I only have built this knowledge since then, and activated it, and then was able to reap the rewards of that knowledge that I had created in that period, and then put it into a system that then realized this way of life in a very short amount of time. So I digress back to, you gotta learn money, and you gotta build a plan, you know what I'm saying, on how you're going to go beyond your current state. Because even then, I didn't want to be on TV anymore. I was 39 years old. I don't need to be on MTV anymore. I'm about to be 40. I'm about to be 40. I don't need to be on MTV anymore. This is getting crazy. You know what I mean? And you know, I felt like Kurt Loder. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm gonna be on here forever. Now, like, I also was like feeling the angst of like, man, I have so much bigger vision, all these other things, and I'm realizing like this vision for my life, like TV's not part of that. And so, you know, keep in mind at that time I'm shooting probably 30 or 40 episode like ridiculousnesses a year, nothing compared to what it is. But then when I finally designed my venture studio and decided I would create all these companies with the end in mind, decide on what the final outcome is, and then build a strategy to build a sustainable, profitable, acquirable business and create a timeline and sell it, it's like, okay, well, where's the first opportunity inside my ecosystem to do this? Television. Well, you got a television show. So then it turned, what I was shooting TV for now had more value towards me. Sure. Because now I understood that what the value of that money was and how it would go into the system, and now how I could use that television show to be part of this first business that I was going to build to sell. And boy, then some wild, wild magic begins to happen then. And now I'm 48 years old and just signed a 5-year deal that will have me all the way to 53. And I'm pretty sure, I'm almost positive, even though there's a 2-year extension for so much money, that it's like, I want to, like, my goal right now is to be able to, at 5 years, turn down the extension and be able to tell the story of like, look, I have finally got to a place where I can't justify that amount of money for 4% of my time. You know what I mean? Is kind of what it is. But it turned my perspective of what was my job then. That was my job, you know, like I want to move on to my business side, you know, and by reframing it, then it being this value, you know, it ended up being, you know, this significant life-changing sort of process. Because not only did, now that I controlled and built the production, I was able to negotiate with the network on the unit economics of the show, and I went from getting 30 episode orders to 120 episode season orders to eventually a 500 episode order, and
that's a lot.
And then in that process, right, so then because now the unit economics, I'm controlling the production, and then I was able, when I signed the 500 episode order, then I sold it. You know what I mean? Based off of the the idea of this unprecedented level of income and earnings that would come along with that in the production space. But it was all inside the plan that I had initially created, right? I spent the time to design my start at the end mentality for venture, and the first thing I did was the production company. I wanted to build it and sell it in 3 years, and built it and sold it in 3 years, and was able, and along the way ended up learning how to produce the show more efficiently, and was motivated to make it more profitable because I was going to sell it, which in turn made the show, and what magic happened, then cable kind of disintegrated, and it became the only thing that would work for them, so they ordered more, which made the company worth more, which made the payoff of the acquisition much more. That started with, I gotta learn how to build businesses and do venture in a way that's like the way that I can create them, have someone else operate them, and have them all have a finite arc of being built to sold in the first one. You know, it's all inside the strategy and the plan, and then all these things happen to conspire to actually make it happen. And part of that is, I would have never thought that I would be in a position where I would be committed to shooting so much TV over the next couple years, but it's this gift that allows like life to slow down for me, because now I can continue to invest in my systems and scale the bodies and keep buying myself time back while doing more and more and bigger things, and I can be patient with building my philosophy in these bigger things that I want to be part of my legacy that will come out in the coming years. You know what I mean? And really, when I begin to lay that life plan out, then that's like you're building your transition, you know, the same way that you've built your transition from being a skateboarder to and being on TV to then building businesses. You just keep like using your current resources while planning a future, and sometimes they intersect and help accelerate you to your future, you know.
Yeah, it's like you got to be filming more TV shows than anyone on the planet with that amount. Like, there's no way anyone's filming more.
There's
than
no
that.
way. And even when they committed to shooting 120 a year, I'm like, man, that's wild. Then, like, you know, during the pandemic, we went from shooting 3 a day to 6 a day to make up for our lost time. And you know, because we have like when we started, we did 2 a day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, right? So I'd be there all day, right? And it would kill me, because we'd shoot for 5 weeks straight. It would just take forever, suck the life out of me. That's also why I didn't want to do it. And by optimizing it to where I shoot the 6 a day once every 3 or 4 days for 2 weeks and break, and like that allowed me to you know, get it to the place where it didn't disrupt my life or my energy, which allowed me to continue to push the scale. But then, you know, I like, he's like, could you deliver more? It's like, all right, well, how many would you want? You know, and then as many as you can give me. I came back, and like the most that I believed that I could physically do was 252 a year, right? And that's 42 days a year, with an hour and a half prep time the night before and 5 hours of shooting, right? And so then when I renegotiated this new deal, and like the only way for me to maximize it further is to look at, like, you know, doing more episodes. And so I'm like, hey, would you take 336 a year? And he's like, absolutely, right? And I'm like, okay, right? So then, but this is the math of it. If I skip one wardrobe change between shows, shorten lunch, then I basically can get an hour back of time. It takes me 28 to 32 minutes to shoot a show. If I get rid of one clip per act, I can bring that down to about between like 24 and 25. And now I can shoot 8 a day on those same 42 days instead of 6 a day. And that adds the additional 33% of shows, 33% EBITDA, 33% to the revenue, 33% more income, since I get paid per episode within the same time block, by just making optimization and slight adjustments inside the system of just shooting 42 days a year, you know.
And all of that is also feeding the awareness of your life. right?
Right.
So that's giving you more time back. So people think, oh my God, that's a crazy schedule. But since you know all these quantifiable numbers, it's giving you freedom for your seat of your tomorrow.
That's right.
So it's giving you back all of this stuff.
But think about it. Like, you've gotten it to such a place, and I wouldn't have done it if I wasn't able to maintain the highly balanced, harmonious life with my family and my kids and working on my projects. Like, if it was, if I had to shoot like 5 days a week, for like 8 hours a day, I just wouldn't do it. Right? Like, it would have broken me the same way it nearly broke me, and I didn't want to do it in 2013 and 14. And that was it wouldn't be possible if I did not have such harmony in my health. Right? If I didn't have such a rhythm to my life and have so much balance and mind share and have gotten so strong and efficient physically that I can basically go fire through. I basically freestyled the show straight through. So it's just basically like a half-hour improv, and I got to maintain that energy, for 5 hours straight, right? Like that, it wouldn't be possible if I had not grown and evolved physically and gotten so healthy to this point either, right?
So it's all feeding on each other.
Yeah, all of that entire thing integrating and allows for more opportunity, but then that optimization, that clarity allowed for me to continually be able to do the show in a more effortless way that reduced the amount of energy, but its output at such a great scale. You know what I mean? That's the whole system working together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a great example. And because, again, if you're eating ultra-processed food and that's not in your health alignment, and then you're not sleeping, and then you're grinding because I got to make more money, but I don't know how much I need to make.
Or you're just like, the money's undeniable. You know, it's like, it's like you didn't have a purpose for it, right? I would equate it more to like Dave Chappelle, right? Where we couldn't believe they offered him like $60 million for another season and he turned it down, right? And it's because, man, the quality of life to sit in there for like 2 or 3 months straight to write all these things and then go do it, it just became grueling, even when I watch your guys' show, I'm like, taxing. I'm like, man, these guys, man, I know how, man, the one that killed me the most was like, when you start the show off in France and the guy with the miracle, the doctor's just like stressing over you. I could just picture the stress of just being in there and like how painful it is to be like on site and work with personalities and try to how long days we got to wait for this, because I know how painful that type of show is to shoot, which I could never do again. You know what I mean? Because I lived it for so many years, because it would take me 6 months to shoot 10 episodes of Fantasy Factory, and I'd have to, be flipping cars and getting attacked by sharks and doing all these crazy
thrown
things,
into waves.
Almost dying in waves. But I knew it was part of building a legacy, but knew that it was unsustainable. You know what I'm saying? So I feel for you. I watched that show and understand the pain of oh man, they're at this location now. Oh man, no, this is.
You got big crews, you got a lot of travel. And then we purposely, the guys that I didn't know ahead of time, we didn't want to meet them before the cameras rolled.
Yeah.
And then shit went down. Like that one.
Yeah.
Shit went down. That was, the truth is, one of the producers who was setting up, I set up the idea of the episode, right? And I really wanted to dive into the quantum world of water. I had all these scientists, and we didn't have enough space to do that, right? So we ended up going to Lourdes, and this doctor was very proud of his position.
Yeah.
And so the one of the producers was kind of setting up the whole thing. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna come visit you, and and Darren and Zach are gonna talk to you. We're gonna set this whole episode up. And great. We show up. Meet him, cameras are rolling, right? Meet him for the first time. And then, so he's a very proud guy, and he starts in a story. Okay, yeah, all right. Then he starts in on a story, and it's going to be a story, right? You realize that this guy, hey, he's got his position, he's proud of it, he's going to tell the story. So he gets in on the story, and the producer comes in while we're rolling, and he's just getting into it, and he just got fucking triggered,
Yeah.
and he just completely blew up, and then we're like, and she goes, "I'm so sorry." He goes, I do not accept your apology. Like, he was gone.
Yeah.
Like, he was, Elvis was leaving the building, and so I had to fully go in, going,
man.
fuck the cameras,
Yeah.
fuck all this stuff. I
Yeah.
care about what you're saying. We're here for this reason. And it finally got him to,
Yeah.
and we, they smudged that a little bit in editing.
Yeah.
They didn't have that, the producer come in. But anyway,
It
yeah.
felt good, man. It's, again, taxing.
It's taxing. But, dude, thank you.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. It's a beautiful setting to get deep
Yeah.
on the inner workings of art, science, and magic,
Yeah, it's really the inner workings of Rob Dyrdek. That's for sure. It's
Yeah,
like,
no
holy
doubt,
shit.
No doubt.
But so much value in that, and I see all the threads of how to thrive in this reality, how to honor yourself, how to not be a victim of the subconscious debris that can be take us all down if we don't turn into it, and how this world and all of it, what it's wanting to tell us, can hijack us at any moment, and that courage that you've been building up of stepping in. And I agree with you 100%. As soon as you step in, you will be met by magic and opportunity and luck and whatever you want to call it. But I agree 1,000%. So I'm more inspired to dive in even deeper, and I can't wait to understand. I just got rid of all my accountants and everything else, like literally like a couple weeks ago. Whole new team.
Time to go on a money learning journey.
Yeah, money. I might be calling you a few times going, Rob, what the hell,
New
man?
reality show.
Like, yeah, exactly. Okay, so my next question is, but yeah, really appreciate it, dude.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you bet.